Hi there, everybody. This is Scott Egan with the Gray House Literary Agency, and this is another video, one of our educational videos that we're putting out to help you as an author prepare yourself to be able to move into the published author phase of your life and your writing. Today's topic, we're going to really focus on the concept of the query letter. And I know for most of you, when we use the word query letter, most of you start to freak out. It's like, I can't write these are so hard. And you know something, there was a part of it that, yes, it is hard. But I think if you stop and you consider the purpose of the query letter, what it's doing for you to get your product out there, and if you understand the things that go into it, you should be in really good shape. Now, first of all, let me just say, I want you to think this. Your query letter, it's the impression of you.
For most editors and agents, that's the first thing that we're going to see. And if you think about that Head and Shoulders commercial where you have the slogan, "You never get a second chance to make a first impression," I think that that is so important for you to remember. Because that is your first impression. That's my first image of who you are when I click on my email and go, oh, okay, Miss Judy Smith. Wow. I'm not sure if I want to sign you. And it could just simply be the way that you worded it. So I want you to think about that. I want you to also consider the concept that a query letter is really nothing more than a cover letter you would put for a job application or for your resume that you send out. That cover letter, what does it do? It highlights specific things that you want that individual employer to be paying attention to. For the same reason, when you do a query letter, it's going to be those first impressions of what you want that editor or agent to pay attention to. I want you to also think about this. You don't just sit there and take your cover letter and your resume and send it out to every single person out there who happens to be applying for who has openings for a job. You do your research. You look and see, is this a company I want to work for? You look to see, is my skill set that I have, does that skill set fit with what the company's looking for? You do the same thing with query letters. Your writing, first of all, does not fit with every single publisher out there. So if you're writing historicals, your writing doesn't fit with every single place. It's not just the word count, but it's also the voice and the style. Along the lines for the agents, I want you to understand you're probably not going to really want to work with all the different editors and agents out there. There's certain people that you're going to have a closer connection to. So you have to do that research, and that's going to be shown inside that query letter. So now let's get to the query letter itself. I return to an idea where basically there's 3 B's to a query letter. The first part, if we start at the very top of the query letter, I recommend that we start off with the contact information of the person you're sending it to. Now, while this is not necessary in an e-query, putting that up front allows whoever happens to be opening the email one more chance to make sure that they get it into the right hands. Remember that a lot of publishers and a lot of agencies have interns and assistants and a lot of other people opening the email, and you want to make sure it gets into the right hands. So if you wanted to send it to me, you make sure that whoever opens my email goes, oh, this definitely has to go to Scott. Okay? So you start off with that. You start off with dear whoever it is, not dear agent, not to whom it may concern. Know who you're sending it to. And then we go into the first of the B's, and that's the basics. While there's a lot of different opinions out there on this, you start out with the title and the word count. You make sure you get that information out there first. The rationale for that is twofold. Number one, if you're an agency like myself, I load everything into a database. So I get all of that loaded in first, and then I read the query letter to make sure that everything is, logged in properly. So that's the first part. But I think the second part is more of a practical idea. By giving us that title, the genre especially, the genre and the word count, it allows that agent or it allows that editor to already start thinking about the context of who they would send that project to. So as an agent, I'm sitting there, if I hear something 50,000, I might go, okay, so I'm going to start thinking Harlequin lines.
if I start seeing something that says, if I'm an editor and I'm hearing, I don't know, is this the 50,000 or the 70,000, it'll determine whether it goes to the single title or the categories. So that's the first part. Now, the second thing to be aware of is in that basics section, I always encourage you to include not just the basics, the title, the genre, and the word count, but also to include 2 additional items. Number 1, it's the high concept. So that high concept is simply what is it that makes your story stand out and unique from everything else that's out there. The other part is I want to know why you are contacting this individual editor or an agent. This is where you're going to demonstrate, you're going to say, I'm contacting you because you have expressed an interest in your website for looking for books of this particular nature. My book fits this because, and give us that. Don't just say, I know that you want a book like mine. I want to know why. The middle section, which will be the largest, maybe 2-3 paragraphs, depending on what you're putting in there, it's the book. Okay? And what we need here is we need the story arc. We need to know the premise of the story, what the story arc, the central main story arc is about. We need to know the conflict. That's what we're looking for. We can't make a decision when you say, this book is a story of coming of love, and it's about Bob, and he meets a couple kids at school, the end. I can't make a decision on that. So we want that information. I could care less about the secondary characters. I could care less about all those smaller scenes. We want the central story arc. So make sure that you give that to us. It's especially important in like the romance genres because we need to understand who those characters are. So really, give us some good information so we understand those characters. The third section, the last one, is the bio. And in this section, what you're going to be doing is giving us an image of who you are as a writer. Tell us about your other writing in the genre that you are pitching, the genre that you're sending the query letter about. If I'm writing romance, I need to be showing this person, here's my background in romance. Now, if it's your first book, we get it. That's fine. Make it your first book, but tell us this particular story is just the beginning. I've got 3 other projects that I have outlined. Maybe they're complete, whatever it might be. If I'm writing romance, I'm not going to tell you about my background in writing educational curriculum because it has nothing to do with that. In that final section, also make sure you state exactly what you're sending to them. So you look at their submission guidelines and you say, after you've given us all the information, you can say, I am enclosing the first 3 chapters in the synopsis based on the recommendations that you put in your submission guidelines. That shows those people that you know what you're doing. And again, that's going to change from one person to the next. Finally, just sign that letter. But make sure that you give us all the contact information. Don't rely on your email. Give us your name, your address, a phone number, the website, whatever it might be. The more contact information that you have, the better. But again, as you get ready to write this, break it down into those 3 B's, put it together, write it all up, and then read it as if you got it in an email. Would you really sign this person? Query letters are not that hard. They are amazingly useful. We are making quick decisions when we are reading our emails of whether we like you or don't like you, so you want to make sure you make that first impression. I'll talk to you later. Make sure you keep paying attention to our website for any updates. That's www.greyhouseagency.com, and I'm certainly always available to answer your questions. I look forward to talking to you and seeing you out there when you write your books. Bye-bye.